If you're working from home, trying to build up your smart home, or having issues with your internet, it might be time to invest in a nice mesh Wi-Fi setup, especially if you're using that box from the cable company. You can do better than that. I went with the Eero Pro 6. I love it. It's been a great router, but this is not going to be for everyone. And this video is not about this particular router, but instead about 5 things to consider before you purchase a router. That way, before you spend $200 or $600, you know what you're actually getting. Let's face it, routers are not exciting at all. They're basically the vegetables of a smart home. You have to eat your vegetables if you want to have a healthy smart home. So let's take a look at these 5 things, and at the end I'll share my thoughts on this router in particular in case you're thinking about getting one. I'm going to use the Eero Pro 6 and Eero 6 since they are new current models, and they give a good example of the price difference between the two that you can expect from different manufacturers. I want to show you what a tri-band router gives you versus a cheaper dual band setup. A quick overview of the two. The Eero 6 is $279 for a router and 2 access points. It is a dual channel setup. The Eero Pro 6 is a tri-band router setup for $599. I just recently learned what that 3rd channel is for, and we'll go over that in a minute. Both are Wi-Fi 6 enabled, which is the newer protocol that laptops, phones, tablets are using. A big difference in the cost is with the Eero 6, you get 1 router and 2 access points. With the Eero Pro 6, you're buying 3 routers. Typically, the routers have at least 2 Ethernet ports on them whenever you go with the setup, but access points don't have Ethernet on them. This has 2 Ethernets on each of the routers, and that can be used to help with speed. It also helps with hardwiring devices into it. So in 2 locations, I have an access point with an 18-inch cable going into an Apple TV, and that's gonna get maximum speed out of that Apple TV. Now let's talk about the 5 things that I think apply to any brand that you might buy a mesh setup from. And number 1 is the fact that I think you should buy a mesh setup if you're going to invest now. Typically with routers, you have a single router that is distributing the Wi-Fi signal throughout your house, and it gets weaker as it goes out. The problem is the device on the outside, furthest away from your router, ends up suffering the slowest speed. Not only does that device suffer, other devices suffer because that brings down the speed for everything. What a mesh setup does is create a network with a primary router and access points. And these send out the signals, and you want them set up so they overlap and they blanket the house. And your devices switch between the access points without you knowing. And since the signals overlap, they help maintain the speed across the network and really make a stronger network that can adjust. In the case of the Eero stuff, can actually move traffic to better places along the network and access points. Great thing about a mesh setup is that you could buy additional access points if you find there's an area in the house that just needs a little more coverage. You buy an access point, add it to the system, and it really just makes it more robust. Now, before we continue, what I really recommend is do a speed test around your house. I go to speedtest.net. I would just try different locations. So just do that little tip and just see where your dead spots are. Next thing to consider, and one of the biggest things to consider, and it can be confusing. You may think the bigger price gets you more, and in some cases it will, in other cases it won't. It's deciding between dual band and tri-band. The dual band setup is $300. The tri-band is $600. So what is the difference with that extra channel? Well, the dual band has a 2.4 gigahertz channel and a 5 gigahertz channel. 2.4 gigahertz is the most popular for devices to connect. Everything connects to that. It's more expensive laptops, tablets, and other things that take advantage of that 5 gigahertz because it is faster and stronger. It just doesn't go as far. With the Eero 6, the router itself is capable of 900 megabits per second. Once you add access points, it drops down to 500 megabits per second. Now, why is that? What ends up happening is these different access points have to communicate, and they need to communicate as fast as possible. So they have to use that 5 gigahertz channel to talk amongst themselves. that cuts the maximum speed of the router in half. The Eero Pro 6 adds that third channel. And what that does is the maximum speed of the router and the additional routers are able to be maintained because they have the 2.4 gigahertz that's dedicated just for devices and the 5 gigahertz dedicated just for devices. That third channel and back channel really pulls the load off the 5 gigahertz and makes for a really strong network. That second 5 gigahertz, that back channel, really is the only way you're able to achieve those gigabit speeds at this point. I really don't need the Eero Pro 6 from a speed standpoint because I have a 200 megabit per second connection, so the 500 megabit per second maximum of the Eero 6 would be more than enough now. But I don't want to replace the setup when I can get gigabit Ethernet, because I'm going to get it as soon as I can. Next, think about the ecosystem that you're working with. Routers used to be that just generic box from a brand you barely could remember their name that you'd set up, spit out some internet, and you're good to go. Now, with all the different features that are available and worked into them, they do support ecosystems that you're in. If you use a lot of Google services, the Nest Wi-Fi is great, and each access point has Google Assistant built into it. Now, I use Echoes. I shop on Amazon. They already have a bunch of my information because my interactions with them and having those Echoes. So it makes sense to invest in something that works with those devices even more and owned by the same company. I'm already trusting Amazon with a bunch of data as is. Why add another company into the mix? Why not keep it within that ecosystem? If you're a HomeKit user, this particular model is great because it just received HomeKit certification. And if you don't know what that is, it's Apple's recognizing that certain devices don't need to connect to the internet. They just need to work locally using a hub, which would be a HomePod Mini or an Apple TV. Your door sensor doesn't need to talk to the internet. So you can keep those things local. That is a certification that's only available on a couple of routers. This helps that ecosystem. Google users, not as much. Next is future-proofing. With certain devices, things change so fast, you shouldn't go crazy trying to future-proof. But there are protocols that need to be established. Wi-Fi 6 is that new protocol that's sticking around. So if you are making an investment, take advantage of Wi-Fi 6. The benefits include capable of handling more devices, which if you're building a smart home or you have a family that keeps adding devices, you're going to want that option because most likely you're not going to get less devices in your house. Also, it's capable of handling faster transfer speeds while still using less power. You might not even have the option of gigabit speeds now, but then some fiber optic company comes in, you have fast speed and you can take advantage of it now. But don't buy it for what it may do later. Buy it for what it does now. Next, look at the additional features that are available. Maybe you want some of the security monitoring services that Eero offers. Look at Nest Wi-Fi if you want those Google Assistant access points so that you don't have to have a Nest hub in the same room. The Nest Wi-Fi can also serve as a thread router when that gets implemented in the future. I mentioned earlier that this is now HomeKit certified, and there's not a lot of options for that. So if you are dedicated to the Apple HomeKit world, this is the way to go then. I found I like the app layout and working within the Eero setup because as devices join, I'll actually name them and specify what kind of device, and it's easy to work in and pause devices. Going back again to Nest Wi-Fi, the way it implements into the Google Home app is really good if you're a Google Android user. On the Echo side of things, the way that this is going to provide that hub for Zigbee devices, which there are a lot of them that fill gaps that Wi-Fi devices can't. So really take a look at the additional functionality that it may offer you and within your ecosystem. Now, I do want to give this tip that can make a transition easier to a different setup. Use the same network name and password. That way you don't have to reset all your devices. In testing my stuff, I end up just using the same network and password. Put that in there. devices don't know any difference, we're good to go. When I set this up, same thing. The bummer part is if you're using a cable box that has a horrible name, but you gotta choose. Rename it and set everything up again. Now, my experience with the Eero Pro 6 has been great. I was having issues where it seemed like my devices were getting kicked off the internet. I have a light right here that I constantly would have to restart before I try to use it. I would have LifeX stuff stalling or not turning on. I started blaming my devices. I was so frustrated. I bought an access point for my previous setup, which had been working great and I raved about for years. I don't know what changed, but I was just having so many issues that I just went for this. It's a big commitment. And as soon as I set it up, those lags and issues went away. This light over here is always connected and no longer a point of frustration. Things are snapping. I'm seeing my garage, Wi-Fi and Thread devices popping on at the same time. It really has been a good improvement for me. I also work at home along with my wife, and this is where we make our living. So I want the most stable, fastest thing that I can get in here. And I want fast connections within the house for transferring files to my network setup so I can take advantage of those faster transfer speeds. Overall, I'm getting great coverage. That's something else to think about. You may see on the box covers 6,000 square feet. Yeah, that's in open, no anything in the way. Add air conditioning, walls, and everything else that the Wi-Fi needs to shoot through, multiple floors. It's better to have more coverage than not. Now, one feature I haven't taken advantage of, but I'm gonna have to because one of my daughters is starting to get a little sassy. There's a pause button within the app, so you can pause the internet and then resume it when the attitude goes away. Now, what kind of Wi-Fi setup are you using? And do you see yourself upgrading anytime soon? Let us know in the comment section. Now, if you made it this far, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps it get recommended to more people. Next, make sure to check out that video over there for some more smart home information. If that one doesn't work for you, that one up there should. I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching. Bye.